Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the pebble stitch with a beautiful textured front, and the back is nice and flat. This is a very pretty stitch which lends itself to a variety of projects. It's a very easy 4-row repeat, which sounds like a lot, but I promise once we get into it, they're very simple rows and it's an easy stitch to remember. To begin, pop a slip knot onto your hook. Now the pattern multiple for the pebble stitch is nice and simple. It's an even number. So we're going to go ahead and chain an even number until your project is the width that you want it to be. So simply chain in multiples of 2, 2, 2 till you get an even number. I'm just making a small sample today, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 20. For row one is simply a setup row. We're going to be working into the second chain from the hook. Now this loop on your hook does not count as anything. You only want to count these fully formed chains hanging down below. So 1, 2. And into this second chain, we're going to work a single crochet. You can work this into whichever part of the chain you find easiest to get into. Then we're simply going to work a single crochet into each chain all the way down the row. Now row 2 starts the mark of the 4-row pattern repeat and is our first pebble stitch row. So for row 2 we're going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and turn our work. Then into that very first stitch where you just chained from, work 1 single crochet. Into the next stitch we're going to work a puff stitch. So to do this we're going to yarn over, go into the very next stitch and draw up a loop. We're going to do that 2 more times. Yarn over, go into that same stitch and draw up a loop. Yarn over, go into that same stitch and draw up a loop. You will have 7 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To complete your puff stitch, we're going to yarn over and draw through all 7 loops. Then into the next stitch, work a single crochet. This will push the puffs forward. Into the next stitch, we're going to work a puff stitch again. So yarn over and draw up a loop 3 times. So yarn over, go into the stitch, draw up a loop. That's once. Yarn over, go into the stitch and draw up a loop. That's twice. Yarn over, go into that same stitch and draw up a loop 3 times. Once you have 7 loops on your hook, we're going to yarn over and draw through all 7 loops. Then single crochet into the next stitch. We're going to repeat this all the way along the row. Puff stitch into the next stitch. So yarn over and draw up a loop 3 times. That's once, twice, 3 times. Once you have 7 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 7 loops, then single crochet into the next stitch. So we're going to be alternating puff stitch, single crochet, puff stitch, single crochet, all the way down for row 2. So puff in the next stitch, then single crochet in the stitch after that. your end, row 2, with a single crochet into that very last stitch. For row 3, we're going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and turn our work. Now for this row, nice and simple, into that very first stitch where we just chain from, work a single crochet, and we're going to work a single crochet into every stitch all the way along. If it's easier for you to rotate your work slightly so you can spot the tops of the stitches, these little V's here, then that's absolutely fine. We're going to work a single crochet into the top of the puff stitch and a single crochet into the single crochet into the top of the puff stitch and into the single crochet. Work this all the way across the row. One single crochet into the top of each of your stitches from the row below. Don't worry if your work curls a little bit like this. It does this initially for your first few rows of the pebble stitch. Eventually, as your project gets longer, this will flatten out and it doesn't curl around. If it's bothering you, you can give it a little stretch and that's more likely to get it to stay flat. For row 4, we're going to chain 1, which again does not count as a stitch, and turn our work. Now we're going to be doing a pebble stitch row again. However, for this 4th row, what we need to do is offset our pebbles from each other. If we continued just repeating these last 2 rows, your work would start to lean and you would get a sort of wonky rectangular shape. So this next pebble row, by offsetting how we start and finish, so offsetting the pebbles, keeps your work nice and straight. So just as we have for all the other rows, we're going to work our first stitch into the same stitch that we just chained from. So work 1 single crochet into that very first stitch. Now to offset our pebbles, we're going to work 1 more single crochet into the next stitch. So we're starting with 2 single crochets for this row. Now we can begin the pebble stitch. So into the next stitch, we work our puff. So yarn over and draw up a loop 3 times. Then yarn over and pull through all 7 loops, puff stitch complete, and work a single crochet into the next stitch. We're going to alternate puff, stitch, single crochet, puff, stitch, single crochet, all the way across the row until you have 2 stitches remaining. We want to leave these last 2 stitches unworked. So puff stitch into your next stitch, followed by a single crochet into the stitch after that. Keep alternating this until you have just 2 stitches remaining. So I'm just working my final puff stitch here, and I have 2 stitches remaining in this row. To finish, we're going to end with 1 single crochet into each of these 2 stitches. So single crochet in the next stitch and single crochet into the last. So we started with 2 single crochets before beginning our puff single crochet alternation, and then we end with 2 single crochets. For row 5, we're going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, turn your work, and into that same stitch where we just chained from, work a single crochet. Now we work a single crochet into the top of every stitch from the row below, again rotating it round if that's easier for you to spot the tops of these stitches. So 1 single crochet into the top of every stitch all the way along this row. To continue this pattern, you're simply going to repeat rows 2, 3, 4, and 5 for as long as you want your project to be. I'm going to really quickly recap those 4 rows for you again so you know exactly how to continue. Or if you're watching this video on YouTube, you can use these chapters along the bottom to quickly jump between rows 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you can keep repeating that until the pattern sticks in your brain. So for a really quick recap of those 4 rows, to recap row 2, we chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, turn your work and work 1 single crochet into that very first stitch where you just chained from. Now we immediately start the pebble stitch, which is the puff stitch, single crochet, puff stitch, single crochet alternation all the way down the row. So we start with a puff stitch and then work your single crochet into the next stitch. Alternate between a puff stitch and a single crochet all the way across. You'll end on a single crochet in that very last stitch. For the next row, we chain 1, does not count as a stitch, turn your work and work a single crochet into the top of that very same stitch that you just chained from. This is a pebble stitch row that we just did, and we follow each pebble stitch row with a single crochet row. So single crochet into the top of every stitch all the way across to the other side. Then for our next pebble stitch row, we're going to do an indented row. So you can see here, these are indented and offset from each other. So to do that, we're going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, turn our work and single crochet into that very first stitch where we chained from, and then work 1 more single crochet. So we start this next pebble row with 2 single crochets instead of 1. Then we begin our pebble stitch row, which is a puff, followed by a single crochet. Alternate this all the way across the row until you have just 2 stitches remaining. You'll be just finishing up a puff stitch and you'll have 2 empty stitches at the end. To end this row, once you've finished your final little puff here and you have 2 stitches remaining, work 1 single crochet in each. Then for the 4th and final repeat row, we chain 1, turn our work, remembering that that chain 1 does not count as anything, and because we've just done a pebble stitch row, we follow it with a single crochet row. So single crochet into that very first stitch where you just chained from, and every stitch right into the top of them all the way across. So you will repeat those 4 rows over and over until your project is the length that you want it to be. Once you have finished your very final stitch on a single crochet row and you want to finish off, you simply chain 1, cut your yarn, leaving a nice long length for weaving in, pull that up, out, pull it tight, and your pebble stitch project will be complete. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please do let me know what you think of the pebble stitch down in the comments below. And until next time, happy crocheting. Bye!